interesting thing. They are able to grow take a certain tissue and grow it in chemical environment and create it would be a nice thing that, for example, one of the things what they can do nowadays, skin, how to grow skin. But it's still far away, but that's something which can be done. Now, the third one is, if you don't have a spare, if you cannot create one, why not just create an artificial organ? Replace it. Actually, most of our organs are some type of a physical contraptions which do certain things. The heart is pumping the heart. If you ever had a heart surgery, you know what they do, that while they operate on your heart, they disconnect your whole blood system and put it in a heart-lung machine, which is taking care of you while the surgeons are operating on your heart. So we can have artificial organs. The question is, can we make it in such a way that it will be acceptable? Because a heart-lung machine, you cannot live a life that if you have something following you. You might remember in the 30s, there was that famous case, someone had polio, and they had to be put in iron lung to maintain life. He actually had an artificial organ, an extra lung, but that's not possible. The thing is, can we do something where you don't have to be in the hospital, that either it can be attached to you or implanted? And there are a number of things which is doing this. Now, what can we replace? We can replace structural parts. We can replace bone, joints, ducts, life-sustaining organ, kidney and heart and lung. You know that bones, if you had a hip operation, they put in a new hip. It's again, what? It's made something out of some polymer or titanium. Some of you might have some metal in it, so when you go through the airport security, it will ring off. But you can do this. You can create bones. You have a broken arm. Frequently, they have to put something instead of it. And it could be just a piece of iron or a joint, knee. It can be done. Now, that's easy. You can take some type of a chemical structure or material, as I said, polymer, or something of a metal, and it replaces the whole thing. A life-sustaining organ, that's where we are getting difficult. I mentioned the heart and lung machine, but as you remember, we had some artificial hearts which extended people's life. But what was the artificial heart? It was something made out of chemical material. It's again chemistry. And in addition to this, many times these artificial parts have to be kept in operation. You have maybe some heart promoter, so there, which is with an electric impulse, will keep your heart beating. And again, this is possible because they are able to make through some microchips, some part which is going to work. Now again, I mentioned it at the beginning. Microchip is a chemical, is a result of chemistry. And these are the ones which are maintaining it. Kidney is the closest one today, which can be in the near future a part of replacing a kidney. Presently, if you have some kidney problem, you have to go to perhaps once a week to the hospital, where they hook you up to a dialysis machine and clean your blood and urine and other materials. And this is because what does the kidney do? The kidney is simply a filtration system, like a liquid gas chromatography, or a liquid chromatography. And presently, they have artificial kidney, which is kind of this size and the tubular, that diameter, which can be attached. It's still not small enough to be put inside, but it can be attached. So you don't have to go to the hospital every week. You can do it yourself. And the number of things which are doing this. Now, I want to mention something about the bones. You know that if you lost your leg, they can put in a part of it, metal, and it will, your pants will cover it up. No one will see it if you learn how to walk. It's an interesting story. There was a South African person who was at age of 11 months, lost one of his legs below the knee. And during the years, they kept creating something for him. And in the 2012 Olympics, he was actually running in the 1500 meter. And first they didn't want to allow him to run because they said it's easier with that one because he has less effort to be spent. And finally they agreed that he can do it. He didn't win, but he was number 8 in the Olympic game in the final. Unfortunately, later he created another publicity when he killed his girlfriend through the bathroom door shut. But he was a living example that you can make something which is useful. It's in an arm, for example. In the old movies, you see especially the pirates, old pirates with a half arm missing with a hook on it. Nowadays, they can make prosthesis, which is not just that piece of thing so people cannot see that you don't have it, but it electronically can be by chips modified, governed, that you can do the same thing with it. And in addition to this, it's also that they can make nowadays skin, artificial skin. Now naturally you can cover it with some plastic, then that's not good. But they can make now plastics when they use in the plastic small piezoelectronic chips. So you can touch when you touch something, if you feel it. So we are getting closer and closer when we are replacing a number of things. Now this is a copy. This is a picture. What can be replaced in a human body today? Some of, obviously most of them presently are still in the experimental state. But look at this. Look at that. Human beings who can have 26 items replaced. And these are all the result of chemistry. Teeth. You have a tooth implant, again with some chemical material. We even have such thing as if someone who has limited vision, they experimented with a miniature television camera, recorder, which can be put in the eye and transfer the sight. Those who have hard hearing, you probably heard about the implant, what you can have if you are deaf. They can implant a small electronic material behind the ear, and you can hear. So all these things, they are all the result of chemistry. Now, the interesting thing, this is skin, bones, joints, prosthesis. I already mentioned these. These can be made more and more human-like. Now, if you read science fictions, they have the robots there, which artificial materials. But you can look at some of the movies. The Star Wars, the R2-D2, and the others, they have artificial intelligence. They have certain computer program implanted, and they can do a number of things. In the industry, in Japan, for example, a number of places where the automobiles are constructed by robots. But they are all given the programming that you do this, and then it can be done. So what are we doing? We are slowly increasing. Well, this is again meaningful life, something, organ, heart, lung, kidney, bladder, liver, vision, hearing. These are all the ones what I mentioned. That it can improve it. And you can still feel as a human being, you can still enjoy life. You don't have to worry, you don't have to go to dialysis, liver, you don't have to watch so much of what you eat, vision, better hearing, everything we are improving. And the interesting thing, we can start out with a robot, R2-D2, and this is the other one, make it more and more human-like. And now with all these advancements, we can start to make it appear as a human being. It's, well, naturally, this is not an actual robot, but with the skin, what you can do with everything there, you can start building a robot which is looking more and more as a human being. And at the other end, you can take a robot, a human being, and replacing certain parts, and it's going to appear or going to be constructed almost like a robot. So where are we going? Now, I didn't talk about three things. What is replacing? One is the digestive system. The digestive system is we eat so we can provide energy for the operation of all the other organs. But actually they made an experimental model, a big box, which acts like a stomach. You can feed in food, and it provides energy. Now, do we want to have this miniaturized, so we, instead of the stomach to put in? But the question is, why do we need energy? If we are replacing all the other parts, which is operated by energy, microchips, implant, do we really need our stomach? The question now is, why do we eat? Do we eat to maintain life, or we enjoy eating? That's part of the meaningful life. Would we be equally happy if we didn't have to eat? That's one question. The second question is the regenerative system, reproducing system. Nowadays, more and more, you hear about artificial insemination, surrogate mothers. If you read the book of 1984, where actually they create in a flask human beings. Now, if we can do this, do we really need all the, and I'm quite sure that one could have, similarly like in 1984, an artificial uterus which can develop a human being once implanted. But do we want this? Is this part of the meaningful life? What about creating and rearing another human beings? And the third one is the brain. Can we replay? We are doing artificial intelligence. The computer now are part of our everyday life, still big. It provides information what we want. You want to know something, immediately just punch it in, or the smartphone. You ask Alexa or Siri or whoever is your thing, what is the temperature in Kansas City? That's what I was asking before I came in here. And we can provide all this information. Why do we need the brain? Especially we can program the brain, the computer, to do things what we want. What we are rearing a child, you teach him or her certain things. That can be done by that's the same as computer programming. So now we are getting to a point where we are making more human-like robots and more robot-like humans. And what I would like to do, leave you this picture from the future, from 2000 to 2118. Can you tell whether this is a human being? Or is it a robot which was equipped with all the necessary things? Do we want to have our life that way? You might remember there was a story, a movie, I think it was called The Renaissance Man, where accidentally in the future a robot developed some human behavior, and he becomes immortal. He outlives all the creators, and but he cannot die because he is programmed into him that whenever something fails, he repairs it. And finally, he goes to the court of the world and asking that he wants to terminate his own life. He wants to get permission not to repair himself. He wants to die. So do we have, if we live forever with all the organs replaced, and who knows, perhaps the brain, what's the purpose of life? But that's naturally one point what no one can tell today. If the brain, if we replace the functioning of the brain with various materials, do we still have a human being? That's the whole thing. What happens when we die, when all the organs wear out? Now, I cannot answer this. That has nothing to do with chemistry. But with all the others, I hope I was able to convince you that chemistry is able and is doing things which makes our life longer and most meaningful. And what I would like to ask you, if you talk to your neighbors who are not chemists, if you talk to any group, emphasize. That's one example, but a number of other things. What chemistry has done for them. This is what we are guilty as scientists, that we talk to each other. We take great pride when an ACS meeting we discovered a new chemical reaction. We can make now this. Why is it? But we don't talk about it to the non-chemist. What does it do for you? I remember when I was the president, and that's the last, ending my talk, I was giving a talk in Wyoming where some local chemist was given an award for developing a new liquid chromatography method to analyze asphalt. And they wanted to describe it. Well, he was using a silicon column packed with aluminum oxide and titanium oxide, and he could get the identification of the asphalt better. And they wanted to submit this as a press release. And I told them that, do you think that the average person who is reading this will be interested? I said, why don't you say it in the following way? Dr. So-and-so discovered a new way to improve the asphalt, to make it more useful, and there will be less potholes on the street. Now, that they will understand. Sure enough, in the next day, the Laramie newspaper where this happened brought it. Scientists discover a way to decrease the number of potholes. And that's what we have to get it across to the average person. So I hope I was able to get a few students who are willing to go out there and talk to others, non-chemists, that chemistry is important. It's not whether you want to convince someone to become a chemist, because someone can be a lawyer, a doctor, a bookkeeper, or anyone. But if that person understands that chemistry is important, then in this case our chemistry will get a better image, and newspapers will not harp on it that again a new chemical contamination obtained in such and such a river. All right, with this I want to thank you for your attention. I will take a few questions before I understand we have another part of my talk. But is there any question? Thank you very much. Anything? Anyone want to answer that question? Is that a robotic